what's up you guys, this is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Daily Grind, DevStream 98 has me so freaking hyped, but you know what, I gotta reel it in, and we gotta talk about this Eidolon fight. Alright, so I don't know about the rest of you guys, but after watching that footage, I am super excited to take on one of these Eidolon, and it's mainly because of the fact that, if I'm gonna be honest with you, there doesn't really feel like there are many threats out there for us in our Warframes, and these things look like an actual threat. They look like they could actually fight back. Now, if we take a look at the footage, we can see some of its attacks. Some of the kind of like innocuous ones, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you, seem to be like the ground stomp that it does with its little feetsies, and then the big old melee swing that it has with that big tree that it's got like uprooted in its spectral grasp. Those ones seems like they're going to be the easiest ones to kind of like dodge around and not really worry too much about. However, there does seem to be some range on that tree, so if you're not prepared for it and you're not good at parkour, you might catch a little tree limb here and there. But the ones that I feel are real threats, and I was like, oh my god, these are going to be the biggest assholes of that whole fight, are going to be those goddamn drones. They're like little mini Bayhex that like zap you for energy, and I'm like, oh my god, they were like proccing magnetic a whole ton, stripping you of your shields and stripping you of your energy, and that is no fun whatsoever. So I think we're probably gonna have to bring some sort of energy pads to go along with it, because legitimately, if those things get a hold of you before you can take them down, those are gonna be a pain. There also seemed to be something very interesting about them, and I don't know if it's like a triggered effect that happens, but Rebecca did mention it during the kind of fight thing. She managed to kill one, and if you noticed, when she killed it, it actually left behind this kind of like little spirit that looked to zoom up into the sky. So I don't know if that actually triggers something, or you know, if you kill a certain amount of those, it starts changing its tactics when it comes to you, because legitimately I was like, it wouldn't leave behind a weird spiritual thing if it didn't do anything. Maybe those spirits explode, maybe they do something else, or maybe they lead up to the next attack. Because the next thing that I noticed, and as the footage was rolling, I was like, what is that? Rebecca, look up, what is that? And what it looked like, it was the Eidolon was almost shooting up what seemed to be like a sentient that was just hovering. For a while I thought it was just a sentient that was hovering up there, but legitimately, if you look at it played back, you'll see this kind of like energy bolt shoot up from its back and kind of hover in the air for a while, and then it like lets out these kind of like targeted beams of energy. Well, not targeted beams of energy, but like targeted bolts of energy. Almost think like a Hellions rocket. And they were definitely tracing on Rebecca, and I was like, holy shit. I believe I saw one actually proc magnetic on her, which seems to be like the kind of like energy base that this guy is using, which is absolute shit, because that means that they could track you and drain your energy too, in addition to all of those drones. And I'm like, holy crap. Then of course the Eidolon itself has that big massive gun attached to it, and it's got two really kind of like big attacks, and I'm not exactly sure how hard they'd be to track. The first one is this kind of like horizontal spray, where it kind of sprays like all of the scatter shot across the landscape, and that one doesn't really seem to be that big a deal unless maybe you're not prepared for it, or maybe you're within its like blast radius. Maybe anti-aircraft is like, that's a good shot to do it. And then the other one is where the Eidolon kind of aims up into the sky, and it shoots a blast in the sky, and it starts raining down all of these energy projectiles, and I was like, oh, you know, like, sometimes they have like ground markers as to where we should avoid, right? They do that with orbital strikes, right? So you're gonna give us places on the ground that we should like dodge, because I didn't see that in the footage. I didn't see any like circular ground patches that says don't stand here, it's gonna come to get you. So I don't know if that's gonna be kind of like maybe a difficulty thing. Maybe it'll be an audio thing that we kind of have to listen to, because I definitely know that in Dauntless there are a couple alerts that it's not necessarily a visual cue, but it's more like an audio cue that something's coming to get you. So part of me is a little like, oh, please don't let that be a thing. Like, give us ground targeted things so we can see. Don't stand here. But those are definitely going to be the big attacks, like those drones, the tracing bolts, and that big AoE. I guess you can't call it AoE, but that big orbital strike that it fires down. Those ones are going to be severe pains. Now, of course, depending on how tough our operators are, we'll see exactly how big a pain they are, because it seems like our Warframes, well, it doesn't seem. Listen, Rebecca, I love Rebecca, but she tends to spoil things a little bit, but not really. She's not intending on spoiling them, but when you listen to the way she talks, she was like, I can't do any damage to this. My Warframe and my weapons can't do any damage to this whatsoever. And I'm like, girl, I get it. I get it. We can't damage these things with our Warframes traditionally. I understand. But if you also paid attention to what she was doing during the demo, you could see like how her weapons were zooming into certain points of the Eidolon, which was like, girl, are you trying to say it? Are you trying to tell us something? Just say it. You could just say it. I mean, like, is there a reason you're zooming into certain parts? And those were actually all of the spectral parts on the Eidolon. Now, initially, when I was kind of talking about like weak spots on the Eidolon, the only ones that were really very visible to us was kind of like the Eidolon tendrils that were hanging down from like the head bits. And I kind of called it like the brainstem of the Eidolon. That was one of them. However, if you look very, very closely in the footage, there's actually several other parts. So there's the spectral bits that hold on to the tree, right? So that's one spectral bit. There's another part that's coming out of one of the knees. There's another part that's coming out of one of its shoulder blades. And then, of course, there is the one that's dangling from the head. So that's kind of like, and the thing is, they were glowing a little bit. You know how these games like this helps. Like, okay, so they're glowing. You probably want to shoot these. But clearly, since we can't shoot them with our Warframe, we would probably have to shoot them with our operator. And because of the fact that they gave us multiple spots to target, it's probably saying that there are a couple different areas of approach when it comes to taking on the Eidolon itself, which is kind of cool because you know what? If it's doing a big AoE cleave from the front, you might want to be in the back with your operator shooting it in the like shoulder blade that it's got going. Or maybe, you know, it's doing like this big aerial strike so you get a chance as you're kind of dodging and weaving and all of that kind of stuff and take a couple pot shots to like the face danglies. And I'm thinking that's gonna be our way of approach to either stagger it or to drop its shields or make it vulnerable in some way, shape, or form for our Warframes to go and attack it. And that seems to be its only real like invincibility mode, and I'm wondering if it's gonna be that easy. You know, I kind of put out a video about that earlier this week. It's like, okay, so we just blast one spot and then we're gonna make it susceptible, or is this gonna be like a bigger thing where we're gonna have to blast multiple parts in a certain amount of time to bring it down and allow our Warframes to do the damage to it? Because that's really kind of like the whole gating of this thing is we have a lot of very, very powerful weapons that can take this Eidolon down and completely wipe it off the map very quickly. We have lots of those. We have tons of those. They can bypass armor. They can bypass shields. Doesn't even matter about any of that kind of stuff. Like, legitimately, we'll find a way to like tear through all of that if we don't have something that kind of prevents us or buffers us from actually taking on the Eidolon. So I'm thinking that it's either going to be a combination of one or the other. It's either going to be a single zap and you're going to be able to kind of like stagger it a little bit and weaken it. Oh my god. What if this is like a Fomorian? Okay, you guys, I think I might have just come up with something. What if this is like a Fomorian? So if you guys have ever taken on a Fomorian, it has all of those little spiggity things, those little rotating blast things that you blast off. And then the more you blast off, the more vulnerable the target becomes. So maybe if you just hit it in like the facial scrap area, it you know, gives you like 25% damage, you know, and then if you take down more and more spots, if you, let's say, take down all, are there 4 spots? Holds a tree, knee, dangling from the head, back of the 25% for just one part, 50% damage for the second part, 75% damage for 3 of the parts, and then 100% full damage if you hit 4 parts. Okay, that is my theory. I'm putting that out into the universe, but there are 4 parts that we can see that are spectral that you can shoot at, so I'm thinking that that might be a potential way to do it. Because they did say that, you know, we'd actually be doing damage with our Warframes at some point, so I'm assuming that we're going to have to strike the revealed areas for these Eidolon. And you know what? That's going to be kind of cool because they did put some, the one on the back shoulder is a little bit of a difficult area to get to. The spectral arm is really, really easy to hit. The face bits are easy to hit. The knee one might not be so easy because it's a little bit smaller and it's a little bit more mobile. But then that back bit is going to be the most painful. And I mean, if you think about it, 4 Warframes, 4 different areas, they can focus on taking down different spectral bits, and then once all spectral bits are down, they can get back into their Warframes and deal some damage. I think I got something. All right, y'all owe me a cake if I was right. Now, the way that I want to close this out, though, is a little bit interesting. Like I was saying, Rebecca tends to be a bit transparent when it comes to the way that she talks about things. Listen, I love you, Rebecca, but I know you. I've seen you for a while. Oh, that sounds creepy, but no. So one of the things that was actually noted was the way that these Eidolons kind of came to be. These aren't actually like the sentients themselves, but supposedly they're the ghosts of the sentients from a previous era, you know, from the old war. So at night they rise from the waters and they're a little bit like, what's going on? What's happening? They're a little bit groggy, you know, they're missing parts off of their body and they're like, I need to go find my arm. I got this tree, but it doesn't work the same. So they kind of like wander the plains of Eidolon looking for their remaining body parts. So a part of me is kind of like, they're giving us a little bit of a sob story when it comes to the Eidolons, right? You know, they use words like confused. Rebecca says, oh, you kind of feel sorry for them. Was that supposed to mean you kind of feel sorry for them? You kind of feel sorry for the Eidolon? And then at the very, very kind of closing of the whole Eidolon discussion, Steve said something very like, I was like, I see you, Steve. And what he had actually stated through all of this was that, you know, they were wandering around looking for their parts, and at the end of the day, you get to decide, you know, whether you spare them or whether you slay them. I was like, wait a second. Wait, are you trying to make it seem like the Eidolon aren't the bad guys in this? That they're just like lost souls looking to be released? Because I'm almost thinking that what if, you know, you get the choice at the end whether to slay it or whether to spare it. And when you say spirit, maybe you like release its spirit into the ether and it leaves you with some sort of spiritual remnants that you can use for crafting. On the other end of the spectrum, if you slay it, what if that actually gives you what do you call this, like physical material for crafting? So one is kind of like an energy based material and one is actual like physical material that you can use for crafting, and your team has to decide as to what you're gonna do with the Eidolon stuff. And that always kind of like is really fucking interesting, because I don't know if you guys remember, one of the biggest events in all of Warframe history was the Gradivis dilemma. Now, some of you guys are a little bit newer, but the Gradivis dilemma literally pit the community against each other to figure out what side of the, you know, what side of the coin they were gonna align with, whether you're gonna side with the Corpus in a certain battle or whether you're gonna side with the Grineer in a certain battle, and that way would kind of decide what rewards you would get. So this is almost like mini Gradivis dilemma. It's almost like, do we let the spirit leave so that we can have the spiritual essence, or do we slay the beast and we take the physical essence? I think that would be a very, very interesting twist, and the way that they were kind of like positioning it is like, you felt bad for the creature, so maybe you don't necessarily want to slay it. I don't know, it sounds really, really interesting. What do you guys think about that specific quote? Because that really got me. Do you slay it or do you spare it? I'm like, I didn't know we had a choice. I thought we just killed the fucker. I thought we just hit the weak spots and he was trying to shoot us, and then now he's dead and we got our shit. But apparently there's a whole nother layer to this, and I'm really, really interested to see what you guys think of it. Are you guys excited about the battle? Are you excited to like be dodging and weaving all of these big, crazy attacks? Are you looking forward to seeing what the Tenno Warriors are going to get into? We'll chat about that in a separate video, by the way, too. What do you think about the spectral bits theory? Do you think that that's potentially one of the ways that we're going to take down an Eidolon? Regardless, it's all super, super interesting, and I have so much more that I need to chat about, so I will let you guys go. But again, give me all of your feels in the comment section below. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!